Have you ever actually stopped to look at that thing on your wrist? I mean, really look at it? It's not just telling you the time. Nope. It is the end result of centuries of this incredible human drive to, well, to conquer time itself. Seriously. From giant clock towers to these tiny little computers that can literally read our biology, the story of the watch is kind of the story of us. So let's dive in and see how we got here. It really all boils down to this one single fascinating question. For most of human history, if you wanted to know the time, you had to go look up at a massive public clock tower. So how in the world did we take that colossal piece of machinery, shrink it down, and make it something you could just wear? That's the amazing journey we're going on today. All right, so our story kicks off with a really simple but massive problem. Back in the medieval world, time was a public utility. It was stationary, it was dictated by these enormous clock towers that were powered by, get this, heavy weights. So the very first huge leap forward was just figuring out how to make time personal and, portable. Yeah, for the longest time, clocks were literally powered by gravity, just falling weights pulling on a system of gears. And that works great, but you can't exactly carry a clock tower around with you. Then, sometime in the 15th century, a total game-changing invention shows up. And by about 1510, a German locksmith named Pierre Honlein uses this new tech to create what many consider the very first clock watch. It was big, it was clunky, but hey, it was portable. And this right here, this was the secret sauce, the mainspring. It's such a simple but absolutely brilliant idea. It's just a coiled-up spring that stores potential energy. You wind it up, and suddenly you've packed enough power into a tiny little container to run a clock for hours. This one invention completely severed the tie to gravity, and, for the very first time, put time right into our hands. Okay, so making it portable, that was one thing. But making it accurate, whew, that was a whole other story. These first clock watches were, let's be honest, terrible at keeping time. So the next century and a half turned into this golden age of invention, with everyone focused on one thing, giving the watch a precise, steady, mechanical heartbeat. The first huge breakthrough comes in 1657 with the balance spring. Now, this tiny, almost hair-like spring was the absolute key to control. It made the balance wheel swing back and forth at a super consistent rate. It gave the watch that steady, tick-tock heartbeat and turned it from a cool but kind of useless gadget into a genuinely precise instrument you could rely on. And then came the final piece of the precision puzzle, the lever escapement. Invented by a guy named Thomas Mudge, this was just the perfect delivery system. It took all that raw power from the mainspring and released it in these perfectly timed, tiny little nudges to the balance wheel. It was so incredibly efficient and reliable that it basically became the standard for almost every mechanical watch for the next 200 years. But it wasn't just one or two big ideas. Real precision came from a whole series of brilliant little solutions all working together. You had jewel bearings, literally tiny synthetic rubies, at key pivot points to slash friction. The fusée, this clever cone-shaped pulley, made sure the watch kept steady time even as the mainspring was unwinding. Then came keyless winding, so you didn't need to carry a separate key just to power up your watch. And finally, shock protection, which made watches tough enough to survive being dropped. All these unsung heroes came together to make the mechanical watch what it is. So by this point, the engine inside the watch was pretty much perfected. But it was still a thing that lived in people's pockets. The next big evolution wasn't about the inside at all. It was about changing its form, its function, and its place in our lives by moving it from the pocket to the wrist. And check this out. Here's a fantastic piece of trivia for you. We tend to think of the wristwatch as this rugged military thing, right? Well, it actually started out as the height of fashion. The very first one was this exquisite piece of jewelry made by the legendary watchmaker Abraham Louis Breguet for a queen. For almost 100 years, they were seen as these delicate, decorative accessories, worn almost exclusively by aristocratic women. So, what changed everything? War. Simple as that. Down in the trenches of World War I, coordinating attacks demanded split-second timing, and fumbling around for a pocket watch while you're under fire, that wasn't just impractical, it was deadly. The wristwatch, right there on your arm, ready at a glance, became an essential piece of military gear. And after that, its adoption by men just skyrocketed. Now, after the war, two final innovations really cemented the wristwatch's place in our daily lives. First, you get the self-winding mechanism. This meant the watch powered itself just from the motion of your arm, no more remembering to wind it every day. And then, just 3 years later, the first truly waterproof case comes along, turning the watch into the durable, go-anywhere companion we know today. For decades, the Swiss mechanical watch was the undisputed king. There was no competition. But in the 1960s, a technological tsunami was brewing over in Japan, a disruption so huge it nearly wiped out the entire traditional watch industry. They called it the Quartz Crisis. This revolution wasn't powered by springs and gears. It was powered by a battery and a tiny, tuning fork-shaped crystal of quartz. See, when you pass an electric current through it, that crystal vibrates at an unbelievably high and stable frequency. We're talking thousands of times per second. This gave it a timekeeping base that was just orders of magnitude more accurate than any mechanical movement could ever hope to be. And this chart just perfectly illustrates why quartz was so incredibly disruptive. A mechanical watch has hundreds of tiny, intricate parts that have to be assembled by hand. A quartz watch, it's got a simple circuit and almost no moving parts. So what does that mean? It means it was not only way more accurate, we're talking losing a few seconds a month instead of a day, but it was also incredibly cheap to mass produce. All of a sudden, hyper-accurate timekeeping was available to everyone. So the mechanical watch industry was on its knees. It was on the brink of extinction. To survive, the watch had to completely evolve. It couldn't just be about telling time anymore, not when a $5 watch could do it better. It had to become something more. This crisis forced a complete reimagining of what a watch could even be. And the first step in that new direction was the digital display. First, you had those cool retro glowing red LEDs, and then the more power-efficient LCDs. The very way we read time completely changed. But this wasn't just a new face for the watch. It was the first real sign that this device was starting to merge with the world of electronics and computers. And well, that merger has led us straight to the modern smartwatch. Think about it. It's not just a timepiece anymore. It's a communications hub on your wrist. It's a health and fitness monitor. It's a tiny, powerful computer. It has totally redefined the purpose of the device on our wrist, from being a tool that tells you about the world around you to a tool that tells you about yourself. You know, when you take a step back and zoom out, it's just an incredible story. It all goes back to one of humanity's earliest and most fundamental inventions, the wheel. From using that basic concept of rotation to measure the day in a mechanical clock, to perfecting that rotation for insane precision with the balance spring, all the way to today's smartwatch, which is just the ultimate fusion of that ancient mechanical principle with modern microtechnology. And so that brings us right here to today. This little device has evolved from a simple time teller into this indispensable part of our digital and physical lives, which leaves us with one final and I think really exciting question to think about. What's next? What's the next big human problem that's going to be solved by this incredible, ever-evolving machine on our wrist?